I'm Akademiks. Can't ride no wave.
And I'm going to be honest with you, like, I'm one of the people, I think I got cooked in the comments when I went on Vlad and I said, I think Durk got a chance. Because the Durk's case, you know, I know everybody keeps saying the feds are undefeatable. And honestly, like, they do have a great success rate. But a lot of people don't go to trial with them, and a lot of people don't have the resources to actually box with them. We saw a young boy who beat them. I mean, you know, there's a lot of people who got favorable results, if you want to be honest. Now, granted, this is a case that carries potentially even death, and they haven't indicated that they want death for Durk. But we do have to kind of like analyze what's probably going to happen here, because the feds have they've pinned their case for Durk and hinged it on a few things that I've always seen as frivolous, okay? Now, it's enough to hold him. It's enough to charge him. I've always said it's maybe not enough to convict him. By the way, I'm also the same person that thinks that Pooh Shiesty might actually even have a case to beat his situation. So those are two different cases that people usually say, oh, it's cooked. Now, I've explained in depth why I think both cases might actually be favorable for the defendants, but to specifically get to Durk and kind of like let you know, Durk is not tied to this particular murder for hire, which he is accused of being the top guy. There's no damning text that says, did you kill the guy for me? There's no damning text that says, go kill the guy. There's actually only one thing that refers to maybe something happening where he says, don't put something under my name. Now, obviously, some people could be like, well, now he said that because he wanted to be discreet. But even if you want to give that the benefit of the doubt, are you telling me that a jury that needs to convict a man beyond a reasonable doubt, the only statement that's said by him that was supposed to be the damning statement, dead to rights type of thing, is him saying, don't put nothing under my name? We'll see. Essentially, that case is going to come down to a bunch of snitches, right? The guy who used to be with Vaughn all the time, his name is Vonnie, he's going to have to take the stand. One of the shooters is taking a stand. Here's the thing. If Durk did do this, and we're going to talk in hypotheticals right now because, Durk never talked to the shooters. And that's one of the smart things that Durk did. He always communicated through the middleman. Who's the middleman according to the feds? That is OTF DD. So he talked to DD, never talked to the shooter. So there's a shooter who's actually snitching, his co-conspirator too. And he's one of the snitches. Except he never talked to Durk directly. So he could possibly say, well, Durk did want me to kill this guy, but will he be able to share that Durk sent him a message saying, hey, come kill him? Or have anything that maybe he was wearing a wire? No. So how do they plan to prove this case against Durk? Well, they plan to prove this case against Durk because they're saying, well, Durkio used his right-hand man at the time, which would be Vonnie. They boarded a plane, a private jet, via Florida after they heard that Quando Rondo was going to be in L.A. They went to L.A. Durk disguised it like he was doing podcasts and things like that. And by the way, for the people who have said it, and I've heard Wax say this incorrectly a couple of times, that's not when me and Durk did our interview. That was a separate time. So he did some other interview. It might have been Nelk Boys, but it's a separate time, though. Anyway, Durk goes to L.A. He's trying to do business, but the guys he goes with and supposedly are there goes to carry out this murder. Vonnie gets the gloves. Vonnie gets like the mask. Vonnie gets the guns to give to the guys. You have 3 people or 2 people, I believe, that come from Chicago and 1 that comes from somewhere else. Anyway, the point what I'm trying to say with trying to explain this situation is there's limited Durk exposure unless the snitches do a convincing job of proving that Durk was behind this. After they killed Quando Rondo's cousin, Lil Pop, they went to In-N-Out. Hey, listen, anybody in California? Tell me if I'm wrong. In-N-Out got them burgers, man. Shit. You just caught a body. You got to go over there. You got to get that double-double. Facts. Okay? Now, they all went to In-N-Out. That's documented. That's on camera. Durk's not there. Allegedly, they're talking about payment. Maybe others are bringing up, oh, no, Durk, you got you. But still, Durk is not there himself. They don't really have much really saying that Durk did anything, except they have the people who are connected to it, we believe, that are going to point at Durk. So who are the people? So the shooter is going to say, well, Didi told us Durk wanted the guy dead. Vonnie, who set this up, told us Durk was going to pay us. There is supposedly OTF Jam, who's going to say, well, Durk always had like a bounty to get somebody killed. So they're kind of having, it's like everybody around you say, no, it's that guy. But because there is no audio recording of Durk ever saying go kill someone, and I do want to remind you of what happened in the Dolph case. Now, granted, this was a state case coming out of Tennessee because that happened in Memphis, but in the Dolph case, the reason why Big Jook was never charged, and he actually got murdered before he got charged with the death of young Dolph, is literally because there was, even though they had the killer who was willing to snitch, they literally felt they needed more to actually put Jook in the crosshairs of doing a murder for hire. So before they arrested him, they said they were investigating him. He got killed. If you don't know that story, Big Jook, who is the brother of Yo Gotti, supposedly puts a bag on young Dolph's head. He gets two guys to do it. Those guys go and do it. And essentially they get caught. One of them starts telling. The other one, straight drop. Justin Johnson, he goes down. He doesn't tell. But before Big Jook could get arrested, he gets murdered at the funeral of his father or grandfather, where Gotti also attended, but Gotti was not shot. Gotti came in a bulletproof vehicle and showed up with a lot of security. So I'm giving you the parallels here. It's not that easy, I believe, to prove that Durk killed these people. Also, I know some people saying, well, they're snitching on him. Well, here's the thing, and this is my cause with Pooh Shiesty too. So in the Pooh Shiesty situation, who are the people who are going to be who's going to give testimony? Some of y'all, I know y'all want to say, oh, the off-duty cop, because there was one of them and there was a security guard. Well, the off-duty cop wasn't in the room. The jury's going to have to hear eyewitness testimony from a few people. There's a white cameraman. Okay, he has a clean record. Cool. But you have Gucci Man, who's a basically decorated felon. He's a notorious, again, if I'm a prosecutor or a defense attorney, I'm going to say this guy's if I'm a defense attorney, actually, he's a decorated liar. He's not trustworthy at all. We could point back to his lyrics and how he's lived and what's happening now. How could you trust his word? So I would do a bang-up job of getting Gucci to be seen as a flat-out liar if he does take the stand. Some people feel like he won't take the stand. Then we have Gucci's friend, and I would imagine birds of a feather flock together. Gucci's friend probably is not a clean citizen as well. So that's the point. Durk is going to go to trial. They don't have anything exculpatory, or not exculpatory, like incriminating in terms of, yo, Durk, we have the $50,000 transfer from your account to the killer's account. Like, we got you, bro. They don't have that. What they do have is a bunch of niggas snitching on Durk, except the bunch of niggas snitching on Durk is facing murder. Of course they're going to snitch. So what the Durk's lawyer is going to do is paint everybody else out as some spineless snitches who would even throw an innocent Durk under the bus to get themselves underneath a murder charge. Again, maybe not the most ideal thing, but I will say, it is something that some people believe could give enough reasonable doubt that a jury will not convict Durk without some hard evidence tying him to the murder for hire. What does that mean, chat? Well, it's turned into prosecutors, before the trial, they're now seeking to add more charges. And that's where we get wait, if you thought you got him, why are you trying to add more? Well, maybe they're not that sure about what they got. I'll read this from Complex. If you don't know, it says, Lil Durk could be facing additional charges in murder for hire trial, which has been scheduled for August. According to All Hip Hop, the co-defendant, Deontay Wilson, which is Didi, has requested to be released on bond before the trial starts. The filing actually states that defense attorneys were notified by prosecutors that supplemental charges would be reviewed by June 3rd. Among the alleged incidents up for review are a January 29 shooting in downtown Atlanta. Now, we all know that this was always in the works, where the feds, I told you, the feds picked this up. This is around the time that they were trying to get Le Bebe for all that 4PF shit, but they picked up feds picked up, King Von, Lil Durk, Atlanta shooting. This was a shooting. Remember, they ended up dropping it. So it was a shooting outside of a car, and they dropped it. This is it real quick.
Told the court that Alexander
Here we go.
police on charges related to the varsity
Okay.
stumbled across the road
Okay, all right.
at around 5:45 a.m. on February 5th, 2019.
Here we go.
Lil Durk, King Von, and Bezu would get into a verbal altercation with a man in the parking lot of the Varsity, a popular restaurant located in Midtown Atlanta. The man, whose name was Alexander Weatherspoon, was a 23-year-old Vice Lord member and was known on the east side of Chicago for cracking cards and scamming. Witnesses say that the altercation would soon turn violent after 13 shots were fired, hitting Alexander Weatherspoon once in his femoral artery. Weatherspoon would then stumble across the road before collapsing in front of the One Cigar Lounge, traumatizing late-night customers.
Now, keep in mind, this was reported like back then. Both of them got arrested, but this is like the gory details of what happened. And, a lot of people always said, not too sure if y'all believe it. Y'all tell me in the chat if y'all believe it. They said, it's not that Durk pussy had done like that, but they were like, when Durk was around King Von, it's like he would basically just be a little bit more demonic because King Von was on that type of timing. You know what I mean? It's like, you hanging out with your tough friends, you got to be a little bit tougher, right? You know what I mean? Like, you hang out with your bitch-ass friends, you could give a nigga a pass. You hang out with your tough friends, you got to spank that nigga. Facts.
Witnesses would then scramble to call 911, while a SUV with 300 plastered on the side would be seen leaving the scene simultaneously. Emergency services and law enforcement would quickly arrive at the chaotic scene and immediately transport Alexander Weatherspoon to the Atlanta Medical Center for emergency surgery, while detectives would begin to investigate the crime scene and speak to any possible witnesses. The on-scene investigation would reveal that 13 shell casings were found at the scene, coming from both a pistol and a rifle. A 9mm handgun was also found nearby. This case would then go cold for about 3 months, but on May 4th, 2019, King Von would be tackled and arrested by the Chicago police on charges related to the Varsity shooting back in February 2019. 9 days later, Bezu would also be arrested by the Chicago police with the charge being fugitive from justice, out-of-state warrant. Then on May 29th, 2019, the Atlanta police would issue an arrest warrant for the final suspect in the case, Lil Durk. The warrant would be charging Lil Durk with 5 felonies, a major one being an attempt to murder charge. A charge of that sentence usually carries 10 to 20 years in prison. The same day the arrest warrant was announced, Lil Durk would release a song titled "Turn Myself In," which included several dark lyrics.
All right, yeah, I know this is a longer video. I'm not trying to drag it. We've seen this before. It's just basically, ultimately what happened, chat, is that he gets charged with the shoot. Now, according to the police, the police and the prosecutors try to act like, you know what, we thought we knew what happened, because at first they were saying there was a hand that reached outside the car and shot. And they said based on the tattoos on the hand, they could identify who it was. But later on, they kind of backtracked, and then they say, you know what, in the interest of justice, we're just not going to prosecute. And they made it seem like after King Von died, that they didn't really have, maybe the actual shooter was Von, so they're just not going to go after Durk because they don't know. Now, all while the reality was that the feds had the case, and the feds had told them, don't put these niggas in jail. We got something better for them.
Durk and King Von. An Atlanta Police Department detective by the name of Jeffrey Churchill would take the stand and claim that one of the witnesses he spoke with was a female who was talking with Lil Durk and King Von when the incident took place. She claimed that a fight broke out in the car in front of them, and then saw Lil Durk pull out a firearm while shots could be heard. Detective Churchill then told the court that Alexander Weatherspoon also had a firearm with him at the time of the incident, and it is completely possible that Weatherspoon could have fired the first shot. Another interesting piece of evidence brought up in court was the fact that there was allegedly surveillance footage that would show an arm of an individual rumored to be Lil Durk's hanging out the window of a gray and red camo Trackhawk with 300 plastered on the side while firing a firearm.
You see Mr. Banks' arm out the window firing several shots at the victim, towards the victim.
Prosecutors would describe the case as
Yo, who said Lil Durk don't bust his guns? Who said that?
gang-related and even had a Chicago police captain fly all the way down to Atlanta to confirm to the Atlanta courts that Lil Durk and King Von are documented members of the Black Disciples. At the end of the court hearing, it was determined that Lil Durk and King Von were to continue to remain in the Fulton County Jail. 6 days later, at another court hearing, prosecutors would submit a request to Fulton County Judge Kevin Farmer to not give Lil Durk bond and have him remain.
Okay, let me fast forward to where they change your minds.
Reputation. Evidence of this is in King Von's Took Her to the O, a song that describes Von getting confronted by a man rumored to be FBG Duck, and the situation ends up turning violent. Rumors on what exactly happened to FBG Duck would begin spreading online, with the most popular narrative being that King Von and O-Block were responsible for the murder of FBG Duck. Fans all across the world were really starting to believe and see with their own eyes that King Von and Lil Durk were possibly the most dangerous men in hip-hop. Then just 9 days later, after the murder of FBG Duck, Lil Durk would arguably have the most important moment in his career take place when he would be featured on Drake's hit song, Laugh Now, Cry Later. The Drake collaboration would bring a whole new massive audience to Lil Durk and his music.
Okay, all right, let's get to
eager scenes.
Okay.
Close to you is already.
Here we go.
FBI would raid O-Block and arrest 5 members of
Okay.
more than ever on his story and had him in the
Okay, so this is after Durk
today,
dies.
he most likely would have been sitting in the same jail as
Okay.
Money, in order was not shy in stating that King Von would have.
Okay, so this is how they explain why they're not going to charge Durk, but really that was like a smokescreen. They gave this case to the feds.
Any proceedings of the case. Then on October 24th, 2022, it would officially be announced that after over 3 years since the original incident at the Varsity happened, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office would drop all of the charges against Lil Durk and Besu. The Fulton County District Attorney was not shy in stating that King Von would have been indicted for the incident if he were still alive today, which could potentially indicate that Durk's legal team put all the blame of the shooting on Von since he had passed away. Fans online would be ecstatic at the news, claiming this is great for Lil Durk.
Durk never told. Durk not like these other niggas. I stand on it. Durk would never tell. Durk was too real for the rap game. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I think Durk one of those rappers that got tricked into a jail cell thinking that every rapper he used to be rapping on that gangster shit with would do what he was doing. I think everybody was sitting back like, wait, this nigga shoot niggas for real? Wait, Durk really get niggas killed? Yo, Durk really got like 10 bodies? Yo, every other rapper that he was rapping with, they was acting like they was gangster. They was doing nothing. Durk was actually getting niggas clapped. I think he got tricked into a jail cell. He should have listened. He should have realized them rappers was just capping. He was the only one keeping it real.
And that it must be a huge weight lifted off his shoulders. But just because the state dropped the charges.
Bro, Durk's lyrics, nigga, Durk's lyrics read like a fucking true, like it's a nonfiction novel, nigga. If he said it, he did it. There's a few niggas, if they said it, don't even ask. It happened. There ain't no capping when it come to King Von. Ain't no goddamn capping when it come to Schmerkio. If they said it, you might have to do a little bit of research. Go on Chicago Scene and go to 2 Reddit pages, but you're going to find it happen. He not one of them niggas that go to the studio like, let me imagine a drill. Hell nah. That nigga was rapping from memory. Straight up. Straight up. I only know 3 rappers. Well, there's a couple more. But they're free right now, so we can't make the block hot. But all I'm going to say, I ain't hear King Von tell a lie. I ain't hear Schmerkio rap about a fake event. And I ain't hear Pooh Shiesty say he did something he ain't never did. Facts. I got to be honest. There's a couple more, but they're free, so we're just going to act like, yeah, bro, you ain't really did that shit, right? We're going to just act, yeah, just let it go. But them 3, Holy.
Doesn't mean that he's fully in the clear. Since the charges were dismissed and the defendants were not found guilty, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for the state to intentionally drop the case if they knew it could be a part of a much, much bigger case. You know, maybe like a RICO. Only time will tell, but many credible individuals with close...
What the fuck? Oh, he did this 3 years ago. Yeah, time did tell. Yo, he's in a basic RICO. Anyway, all right. So the prosecutors are considering adding that incident that they dropped before on a state level, right? And also keep in mind for the people who might be thinking about legally, they're like, well, double jeopardy. Double jeopardy doesn't exist in these cases because you have to be found not guilty. And yes, double jeopardy would also apply to a federal case. So, for example, if you get charged for state murder and they try to use that murder in a federal case, your double jeopardy could be worked there too. So, you know, if you beat the state case, usually feds don't even bring that charge at all. But if they dismiss the charge, usually they're dismissing it and basically saying if we want to later down the line, we could bring it. That's why they would dismiss it rather than go with a weak case and not get a conviction, and they could never bring those charges again. In 29, okay, so we know that it was dropped in 2022, but they want to bring it back in 2026. Ooh, look at this cute nigga right here, man. Pause. Can I say pause because it's me? Anyway, all right. Then there's another one. The other incident. Let me show you the other incident. The other incident, other than that, is an incident that relates to another case that we've looked into extensively, where this says that the supplemental charges would also be reviewed. But it says among the incidents is the 2019 shooting downtown and also a 2022 shooting of Stephon Mack in Chicago. Keep in mind, remember when D-Thing, which is the brother of Durk, passed away, immediately there was supposed get back for his murder. And the get back was the death of Stephon Mack. People, the prosecutor surely thinks that Durk was behind that. And even the people who were arrested as the killers, they were actually caught saying, when is Durk going to pay for this? Like you hire the killers, and of course they're on text. Well, these guys were the worst killers ever. After they killed the guy, they ran separate directions. They forgot all about surveillance cameras. They had masks on or somewhat face covering. They start shouting out each other's name on some Marco Polo shit. Marco Polo, Marco. They started actually shouting out each other's names. Good job. Why even wear face covering? Okay, these guys weren't the smartest guys, but I don't think you get people to sign up for the job of murder for hire if they're too high of IQ. Anyway. So those guys were also caught on text message, and they were saying to each other, when Smirk, you're going to pay for this killing. Perfect place to actually discuss when the murder for hire are going to get paid out. Just text each other, right? Like, nothing. Feds ain't going to see this shit. You know what I mean? Set in the vanish mode. That's the new shit. Didn't Savage say some shit like that? Savage got a line. He said his shit in vanish mode. I'm like, I know he don't do that shit because he ain't that stupid, but I hope no street niggas actually start doing that shit. Which niggas is doing their crimes in vanish mode? Ain't no fucking way. Ain't vanish mode for your side chicks. It ain't for no crimes. What? Oh, man. Anyway. All right. Okay. It's all good. They said March, Durk shared an audio update to his Instagram followers about his mental state, and he was saying he was improving his patience. If you guys don't remember this audio, we will play it again.
Yeah, I just want to give y'all just an update on my mind state. You know, I just been reading and getting into these books, just working on my patience. I've been reading Pawns in the Game by William Gackar, Huey P. Newton, Fred Hampton, Elaine Brown, just all the revolutionaries, you know, who've been through something and stand for something that a lot of people don't know of or forgot about. You know, and it's just been sitting on my heart lately to just save the generation, bro. Save these kids. You know, they don't deserve it. I'm just tired of being a pawn for the culture. You know, entertaining and being ignorant. You know what I'm saying? I want to change the world around to being positive. I want to start with saying, like, when it comes to support, you know, I'd be cool because, you know, when Jay-Z went through his situation, you know, he the people's champ. They turned their back on him. Even Drake and Kendrick, you know what I'm saying? So You know, I'm gonna be the first one to just do it. You know what I'm saying? And not saying the first one to do it, but you know, for these kids, you know, we got to be their heroes. You know what I'm saying? They got to look up to us in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people ain't gonna like it. You know, if you can't make money off of it, they ain't gonna like it. So I'm gonna be the first one to do it. Revolutionary.
Schmirkio! My prayers goes out to him. My prayers go out to Schmirk. I rock with Schmirk heavy. Okay. So yeah, the feds are considering it. This could go either way. I don't think they're gonna bring these charges on Schmirk. If I had to give my opinion on this, I think if they're having a hard time proving the case where Durk actually did travel with one of the people who was involved in a murder and who's probably telling, and if they're having a hard time proving that, to prove that these other guys who killed Stephon Mack, or even that Durk was the person who shot this guy who we don't even know if he's still a cooperating witness at this point. I think that the feds are kind of signaling that maybe they're trying to do the approach of let's lump up what he's accused of, kind of like, you know, prejudice his case, make him look like, yo, listen, if he's charged with like 3 shootings, like he got to be a bad guy. He got to be guilty of something. And even if they don't get him for obviously murder for hire when it comes to Lil Pop, they could get him for maybe even a shooting and at least get him 10 or 15 years. That's what I'm thinking. But I could be wrong. You know, we will see in due time. Okay? All good. How y'all doing, man? I think my internet's rocking tonight. I'm feeling good. Feeling happy. I am glad to be here, and I'm glad that I have you guys here.